We are here at New York Comic Con, and it's the first day of Comic Con. It's so crowded, so many people out there buying stuff, looking at stuff, trying to get into stuff. But we're focusing on diversity in comics, so I'm excited to be here. And as I was going through the artist gallery, I found an artist, creator, writer, illustrator. Can I add publisher to your name too?
Sure.
Publisher. So I want you to introduce yourself to our viewers.
Okay.
Tell us about all the stuff that you have downstairs and tell us why you came here to Comic Con.
Okay, great, thanks. My name is Jamar Nicholas, Philadelphia-based artist, illustrator, graphic novelist, and educator. I'm here at New York Comic Con 2016 with my Jamar Nicholas Studios booth. I have a lot of different things going on.
What do you have going on?
Okay, so one of the main things I have, and I always make sure I have these when I come to New York, is a graphic novel called Fist, Stick, Knife, Gun that I adapted and illustrated for Jeffrey Canada. Have you heard of Jeffrey Canada? It's a very,
Tell us who that is.
Jeff Canada is a very important black man who ran the Harlem Children's Zone here in New York for several years. He's one of the proponents for charter schools and kind of alternative education for kids.
Okay.
So a couple of years ago, he wrote his own memoirs, and his publisher contacted me to turn it into a graphic novel. So I have that downstairs, and actually I don't because I sold out today. So.
Congratulations.
Yeah, right? So that's one of my things. Also, I am a writer and columnist for Draw Magazine, which is a how-to magazine for comic book creators and also animators, which I do product reviews and also interview other artists. And what else? And I'm also hawking my new creator-owned comic. It's a graphic novel called Leon, Protector of the Playground.
What's that about?
It's about a 6th grade superhero whose mother is kind of like the Wonder Woman of this universe, but it's also a single parent household. So we kind of get into some real stuff into the book, but it's really lighthearted, and we also tackle a lot of kid issues like bullying and, you know, the social dynamic of being in school with a bunch of different weirdo kids. It's really special, and I've been working on it for a while. But it'll be coming out before Christmas this year. Okay.
It's so interesting that you said you're an educator because some of the writers and publishers I've met, especially in the Black creative sect, are all connected to education somewhere. I did an interview with Nashi Gifted. I'm not sure if you've heard of him. And he's a science teacher.
Yeah.
And when I was at the Black Comic Fest, a lot of the exhibitors were either teachers, tutors, or they had a lot of background in education. So what do you think the tie-in is with comics, creativity, and education?
That's an interesting question. I think some of that may stem from the fact that us growing up with this literature and this media was never taken seriously, and now we're all at an age where we're kind of coming into a place of trying to fill those gaps that we didn't have when we were kids. I think leads a lot of people into education. I know I teach just for the fact that when I was a kid, there were no art classes for cartooning in Philly, where I'm from. There are now. There's a million of them. You could trip over them now. But when I was looking for that kind of knowledge and education, but when I was a kid, that stuff didn't exist. And I always felt when I got to be a professional, I wanted to give back in some way. So that was a huge part of me getting into teaching. And
what grade do you teach?
I teach classes at different colleges. Right now I have a class at Drexel University in Philly where I teach writing for comic books.
Okay.
Which is interesting because it's not in the art department. It's in
the English department?
Nope. It's in cinema and television.
Okay.
So in a weird way, a lot of my students last semester were all game majors, like game development and the science of games and stuff like that. And a lot of them take my class because they're interested in world building.
Okay. So,
the storytelling aspect of doing comics is huge to them because they're creating these universes for their games. So, and the semesters before that, a lot of them were screenwriters. A lot of them were screenwriters, but now it's starting to shift into game kids. So what's interesting in my class is a lot of them aren't really comic book fans. They're interested in comics as like this new media because a lot of them have grown up with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and now they're going backwards into the hobby. But I have always wanted to students who are like huge Marvel nerds and they want to talk about, oh man, did you see what so-and-so did? And that's cool, but I'm there for something else.
Now, let me ask you this. I have been covering comics and diversity for a couple years now. But this year seems like, as far as the schedule for Comic-Con, the diversity panels have almost doubled. Like, it's so many, it's so much more than before. What do you think the change is? Do you think the change comes from the mainstream acknowledging that diversity is something they can't avoid and they're kind of buckling down saying, okay, we're going to include you guys? Or do you think it's like, okay, maybe we have been doing this wrong and maybe we do need to diversify our outlook on how we view comics and the viewers and the audience?
I think it's a little of both, and I also think social media has a huge part to do in it. Just Black Twitter and all those kind of things, and just there being a lot of really loud voices in those communities is kind of pushing it to the forefront. And now you're seeing some kind of social media stars come out of these universes. There's a lot of people who have like hashtag Black this or that, or hashtag this, that, and the other, which are bringing behind them huge groups of followers. And now we're at the point where there's a forum for it. New York Comic Con's coming up. We're going to have this panel, and we can crush it, and that's great. But before there was always the Black panel. There was always the one panel at the New York shows, and now there's like 3 or 4 of them, right?
Even 6.
There's 6? Wow.
Well, it's actually more than 6. I think it's for all the days together, it's maybe 10.
That's crazy. That's great. So I think just the boost in social media awareness and people just kind of being sick and tired of being sick and tired has kind of pushed all of this forward. I don't want to say it's just the companies, because I think it's coming from the ground. It's coming from the, like a grassroots thing. I think it's the voices.
Also, when you talk about diversity in comics, we don't want to always focus on just making the mainstream brands create diverse characters. We also want to acknowledge and appreciate independent publishers, writers, and creators. So do you have, besides yourself, obviously, what other independent comics and publishers and writers are you a fan of?
Oh, okay, that's a good question. Put me on the spot. My good friend Chuck Collins, who does a webcomic called Bounce, which he has one volume out called, I think it's called First Round of Shots. Don't put me on that. He just won a bunch of Glyph Awards last May for his comic, which is a great read, where his main character is the bouncer. Chuck used to bounce at bars, and he just created this universe around bouncing and the weirdos that come in, and now it's kind of gone off the rails, and it turns into like a Dragon Ball thing. It's amazing. He's a really great creator. Also, we, independent guys. Also, my good friend Jerry Kraft, I don't know if you're familiar with Jerry, who is a syndicated comic strip artist who did a strip called Mama's Boys. But now he's kind of going off, and he does a lot of book publishing and a lot of self-publishing featuring people of color. I'll give you one more person. I'm blanking all of a sudden.
It's okay. Let me ask you this.
Ron Wimberly, who I'm sitting next to, is amazing, and he's doing everything. There's a lot of people out there making a lot of noise right now.
Who is your favorite mainstream Black comic character that you're glad to see that's getting some press now, or who you want to see eventually get some more press?
Okay,
I got you.
right.
Thank you.
I want to say it's kind of has to be Luke Cage right now.
Luke Cage?
It has to be Luke Cage.
Did you see the whole series?
No, I'm like on episode 6.
What do you think of it?
It's amazing. It's amazing. And what's funny? On Facebook, I've run into a couple of people who are like folded arms, like it's not that great, or I was expecting something else. Now, here's something interesting, and I don't know how much time we have because I like to talk, but I'm finding out there's some people who don't like Luke Cage is because they're expecting it to be boom chicka wow wow blaxploitation Luke Cage, and that we're not dealing with that. We're doing like some modern stuff. They're not interested, because I know a lot of people are just tied into that whole idea of 70s blaxploitation and can't really see black people as real, breathing, living people. So this new stuff is not their cup of tea, but they can't say that.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? But yeah, Luke Cage that's
Luke
my
Cage
dude.
is like, you're into Luke
That's my
Cage
dude
right now. That's
yeah.
cool. So tell us your website, your social media.
Sure. So my website is, should I look over it?
Yes.
So my website is jamarnicholas.com, and also my Twitter account is also at Jamar Nicholas. I'm on Facebook. I have a page there. You can figure it out. And I also do Instagram, which is Jamar.Nicholas. Hey, my name's Jamar Nicholas, and my superheroes are black.